And we're back. Okay guys, so I wanted to do an update to the last video where we installed our Holley hiram and our snake eater injectors. So in the last video, after we got everything on, we went to check our fuel pressure on the Holley dash so I could, use our regulator to set the fuel pressure. And the problem we had is, according to my Holley dash, we were just making 10 pounds of fuel pressure. Now, I want to say this regulator, it's actually a knockoff of the Aeromotive, I think it's the 13301 regulator, which is, one of their smaller regulators. I wanted to use it instead of the big fat eBay regulators that I usually use, because I wanted to be able to do this, fuel line setup the way you see it here. Now you can see it's an exact clone, guys. It even says Aeromotive on it. It has the Aeromotive logo. The difference is about $130 because I paid, I think, $30 for this one about 2 years ago. I've never used it on anything, and the actual Aeromotive regulator like this is, I think, $166 or something. So anyway, when I saw the fuel pressure, my first thought was, yeah, it's this piece of crap regulator. But what threw me off is I could screw the adjustment screw all the way in or all the way out. It made zero change whatsoever. So at that point, I started leaning towards our low dollar sensor here, our transducer. I thought maybe it had went bad on me. So the problem I had is I could not find a pressure gauge, and I looked everywhere. I've got one, but I've got a mess of boxes over here. I dug through them, couldn't find it. So it took me a few days to find one. It turns out my cousin Brad had this snap-on fuel pressure checker here. So a couple days ago, he was able to finally bring it over, and lo and behold, when I turned the key forward, it shot up and pegged out 100 psi on the snap-on gauge here. So that told me immediately the fuel pressure regulator was in fact building pressure, and it was just the my low dollar motorsports transducer had went out on me. Now that was good news on several levels. Number one, because that means that this cool looking little eBay Aeromotive regulator here actually works pretty good. And so I'm going to go back in the last video and add a link, an eBay link to where I bought that for you guys who might want to do a similar setup here. It also was good because that means we were making over 100 psi of fuel pressure, and I had no leaks anywhere. Sorry about that phone call. My phone has been blowing up today. Anyway, as I was saying, yeah, guys, we had 100 psi, well, plus 100. I don't know exactly what it was because the gauge only goes to 100. But we know it was at least 100 psi, and none of my fittings were leaking anywhere. So that's really good news. So the first thing I did was, I went on my Facebook group, the Bad Luck Garage Facebook group, and, I made a post. Hey guys, good news. The regulator, the regulator's fine. We're making pressure. But unfortunately, that means the low dollar motorsport sensor went out, right? So somebody was on there and they were like, hey, you should just contact Brandon Dollar and, see if he'll send you a new sensor or something. Well, here's what's really funny. This was pretty late at night, so I was like, yeah, I'll holler at him tomorrow and see what he says. Well, what was really cool is I wake up at like 8 o'clock the next morning, and Brandon Dollar, the owner of Low Dollar Motorsports, has actually sent me a shipping notification that he shipped me out not just a replacement for my fuel pressure sensor, and it's the updated version, but he went ahead and sent me a updated replacement to my nitrous transducer. It's like a 0 to 1600 psi transducer that I had ordered a few months ago as well, and honestly, I've never even installed it on the car. And in addition to that, he also sent me a beer koozie. So I didn't even have to contact him, guys. Apparently, he just hangs out from time to time on the internet, and when he sees somebody's having a problem, he takes care of it. Man, I'm just going to tell you, that's customer service. You don't get that. And the only reason I didn't contact him first was because I have gotten so used to companies when I buy their stuff and it takes a crap on me, and I try to contact them about warranty service or something, and they pretty much tell me to, you know, tough shit, just, you know, buy another one. So big hats off to Low Dollar Motorsport. And I want to tell you guys, apparently these are updated versions of the transducers. So he actually has the originals on sale right now on his website, and now he's got these updated versions that he tried to explain to me what the difference was, but I guess basically it's just in the seal design and stuff like that. So yeah, guys, if you hadn't already, check out Low Dollar Motorsports if you're looking for transducers, you know, pressure sensors, temperature sensors, shock travel sensors, things like that. That's the way to go. You can't beat that customer service. Like, no kidding, guys. I didn't even ask for this. He had the stuff shipped to me before I even woke up the next morning, and I never even spoke to the guy. So anyway, once we figured out what was going on, we figured out our fuel pressure regulator was good. I went ahead and I set the fuel pressure at like 43 psi without the car running. So my goal today is we're going to go ahead and just leave the snap-on gauge plugged in and try to do the first start on this thing. And you know, once we get it started, I'm going to set the base pressure at 43. Yeah, I'm going to set it at like 43.5 to 44 psi. And that's the base pressure we're going to run on this engine because, you know, it's boost reference. So it's a 1-to-1 on this fuel pressure regulator, which means for every pound of boost that comes in, it's going to add a pound of fuel pressure to compensate. So that ought to keep us, you know, keep the fuel pressure a lot lower than if we started at the general LS 58 psi fuel pressure, because, you know, 58 psi, then by the time you run 20 pounds of boost, you're at 78 psi, and that's just a little high, you know, for what I want to do. So yep, that's where we're at, guys. That's your explanation of why we're setting it low, all that. Again, I'm gonna put a link to this fuel pressure regulator, because for 30 bucks, and it seems to be working just fine. For 30 bucks, that's a really good deal on this. And again, it looks identical to the Aeromotive. Also, unlike the eBay regulator I generally use, this can also be used for carbureted applications. It comes with two different springs. It comes with a really light spring that you can use for carbureted applications, and it comes with a heavier duty spring that you can use for EFI applications like we're using it on. It has 3/8 NPT, ins, outs, and return. And the check ball in the return is a lot larger than it is in the eBay regulators. I've got an eBay regulator over here, but I really don't want to dig it out. But you guys can go back and check out my video. I did a review on the bigger eBay regulators. God, I think it's been 4 years ago, and they've always worked really good for me. So I'm interested in running this one for a while and seeing how well it does and how long it lasts. But for now, what we've got to do, we've got to flash our new tune in, because we went from the decap truck injectors to a set of Snake Eater Performance 1500s that I got from Adam Geske. And so here's the deal, guys. I mean, we had it pretty well dialed in as far as the fueling with the truck injectors. So as long as the data that I have for the Snake Eater injectors is pretty decent, we should be able to just flash my tune in and fire this sucker up. The only thing is, we cannot drive it yet. As you can see, we have no charge pipe. So when Brad came over and brought me his snap-on gauge there, he also went ahead and marked on our tube here that's going to be our charge pipe. He marked where he needed to weld the blow-off valve flange and the intake air temp bung for the intake air temp sensor to screw into. So we don't have our charge pipe, so we won't be driving it today. But my goal is to just get it fired up and you know, make sure everything's going good, no leaks, get the base fuel pressure set, and that's pretty much it, guys. So I'm going to go ahead, make the changes necessary to the tune, get it loaded up, and we'll try to do our first fire up. All right, we got our tune loaded. We did the TPS auto set, and hoping for the first fire up here. We may have to adjust the throttle body a little, but turn the key off and turn it back forward. Wait, did you turn it all the way forward? Here we go. Alright, try it. Success! Alright. First fire up went good. We got our fuel pressure set. What's funny is as soon as you shut it off, the fuel pressure actually went up a little, which was weird. So I'm going to set it right there. I'll check it again next time, but that's all I wanted. I just wanted to make sure it was going to fire. It fired right up too. Yeah. That was a cold start. Hell yeah. So the SCP injector, I guess the data was good because it fired right up. It's running rich, but I was sitting there playing with the fuel pressure, so that's to be expected. We just we'll have to get it dialed in. I guess I had my throttle body set pretty decent. I may be able to close it a little bit more, but yeah, I didn't hear any whistling either coming from this China throttle body. So I don't know, guys, I'm pretty happy about that. First fire up's good. We're just waiting on our charge pipe from Brad, and it will be drivable. So here's the deal. I don't want to drag this video out too much longer, but I just want to say, if we get the charge pipe back before we start the rear end install, then I may actually drive this thing down the road and you know, do a little tuning on it. But call that a success for the most part. I kind of messed up, guys. Two things. First off, I had an open vacuum port here I forgot about for my blow-off valve, so that's probably why it idled up so high. It was getting all that extra air. So that being said, once that's plugged, we may need to adjust the throttle body a little bit, give it a little more opening. Another thing I messed up on, I was over here trying to set the fuel pressure, and it was kind of bouncing around a little, and I was like, why is the fuel pressure bouncing? Well, what it was, when you set your base fuel pressure, you should have the vacuum line, reference line going to the regulator unplugged. That way the vacuum signal doesn't mess with it, and I had that plugged up, so I was kind of chasing my tail trying to adjust the fuel pressure there, but I got it pretty close. I'm pretty happy. I'm really happy it fired up on the first shot. That means the injector data was good. It is really rich. A lot of that might have to do with the fact that I was playing with the fuel pressure. So once I get the fuel pressure dialed in, which I'm probably going to do here in a few minutes off video, once I get that fuel pressure dialed in, we should be good to go. Now, next thing on the agenda, of course, is the charge pipe. So here's the deal with that. If we get the charge pipe back from Brad completed, before we start installing the rear end, then Ray and I may actually take this thing down the road, or hell, Brad and I, if he's over here, we may go ahead and take this thing down the road and just try to get the fueling dialed in a little better now that we have the Snake Eater 1500s in there. If Brad does not get the charge pipe back to me within the next day or two, I think Ray and I are going to go ahead and get this rear end put together and get it put in and try to figure out something as far as getting some brakes for it. The biggest thing is, guys, whether the new rear end is in or not, I need this car mobile, because we are expecting the new transmission for the China Vet hopefully in the next, well, maybe 2 weeks or so, and I don't want this car to be a problem. I want to, when the transmission gets here for the China Vet, we want to be able to immediately get this car out of the garage, get the China Vet in the garage so we can start tearing it apart. So we need to make sure that if we're going to put this rear end, that we got the brakes coming for it, so it's mobile again, because as of right now, that's the only thing stopping us. I mean, the rear end that's in it's good now, so if we didn't touch it and Brad brought us the charge pipe, then we could drive this car no problem. But I'd really like to get this in, because as you can tell, we don't have a lot of space in here, and that'll just give us more space when we tear the whole rear end out of that Corvette to kind of stack parts off to the side here while we're doing the transmission swap. So that's it. Like I said, I don't want to drag this on too long. I just wanted to kind of give you guys an update, let you know what happened, and let you know about Low Dollar Motorsports' awesome customer service there. I mean, that was great. I wasn't expecting that at all. So guys, I'm going to end this video, get my new pressure transducer screwed in there, and I guess that's it. So until next time, get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.